In the heart of 1863 Pennsylvania, a family with wealth and power found itself stalked by a curse, or so the papers claimed. One by one, 21 heirs of the Ashford bloodline were pronounced dead at the exact same time, 9:21 p.m. But beneath the chilling superstition was a truth the world was never meant to see. This was not fate. It was not a curse. It was something far darker, something rooted in hatred, greed, and the color of family skin. What secret could condemn every heir of a dynasty to die at the same hour? The Ashford were not like the wealthy dynasties who filled Pennsylvania's coal towns and booming rail cities. Their fortune was smaller, their influence quieter, but their legacy was unique. Their bloodline was mixed. William Ashford, a white industrialist, had scandalized high society when he married Celeste, a woman of African descent whose beauty, intellect, and strength made her unforgettable. Together, they raised their children in a world that despised their union, a world where a single drop of African heritage could erase centuries of privilege. By 1863, America was tearing itself apart in the Civil War, and Pennsylvania, though free, was no sanctuary. Racial prejudice ran deep. To neighbors, the Ashford children were not heirs, but threats to an unspoken racial order. And yet, despite the whispers, the Ashfords thrived. Their children were educated, healthy, and destined to inherit a proud family name. Then came the deaths. Not sudden at first, but slow, creeping, unexplainable. A son collapsed in his bed at exactly 9:21. A daughter, vibrant hours before, was found lifeless at the same hour. Over time, the family's heirs fell one by one. 21 children across 2 generations, each struck down at 9:21 p.m. To outsiders, it was a curse. To those who looked closer, it was something far worse. The curse story spread quickly. Neighbors whispered that the family had been punished for defying God's law, for mixing races in an age of division. Newspapers branded them as unnatural. Rumors of witchcraft, poisoned blood, and divine wrath filled the taverns and church pews. But the truth was not whispered. It was hidden. Beneath the shroud of superstition, a systematic cruelty unfolded. The Ashfords were targeted. Medical records, carefully tucked away, revealed patterns. Strange tonics administered by trusted family physicians, food deliveries from neighbors that always seemed to sour too quickly, and children kept sickly by medicines disguised as cures. Accidents were frequent. Falls downstairs, sudden fevers, drownings with no witnesses. Every tragedy struck at 9:21 p.m., the hour chosen by those who orchestrated the pattern, a signature left like a calling card. And behind it all was the resentment of a town unwilling to let a mixed-race family rise. White competitors saw the Ashfords as proof that wealth and intellect were not their exclusive birthright. Local leaders whispered that tainted blood could not be allowed to inherit property or power. Even allies remained silent, unwilling to risk their own standing. Celeste Ashford endured the deaths with a strength that terrified her enemies. She buried child after child, heir after heir, under headstones that bore the same chilling hour. Each grave deepened the legend of a curse, distracting the public from the truth. This was not fate, but murder carried out in silence and accepted by society. The more the family resisted, the harsher the attacks became. Their home was vandalized, their children ostracized in schools. Even in church, they were told that God's hand had marked them. And still, at 9:21 p.m., death came, relentless, systematic, unspoken genocide disguised as tragedy. The Ashfords were not cursed. They were erased. The breaking point came with the last heir, Samuel Ashford, a boy of only 12. By then, the family was shattered. The graves of siblings and cousins stretched long and silent across Pennsylvania soil. Samuel was their final hope, the last name in a family tree cut down branch by branch. On the night of March 21st, Samuel complained of stomach pains. His mother stayed by his side, refusing to trust doctors or neighbors. She prayed, she begged, she watched the clock. As the hour drew near, Samuel writhed, his breast shallow, his eyes wide with terror. He could not understand. At 9:20 p.m., Celeste clutched his hand. At 9:21, the boy exhaled his last breath. Another heir claimed, another life extinguished, Another hour marked in blood. This was no coincidence. No curse. It was a calculated end of a family's legacy, orchestrated by those who saw their existence as dangerous, their bloodline as unforgivable. And with Samuel's death, the Ashford name was silenced forever. But the cruelty did not end in silence. It was immortalized as myth. The newspapers published eerie tales of a cursed dynasty, spinning fear instead of justice. Neighbors shook their heads at the unnatural fate of the Ashfords, never speaking aloud the truth they had helped write. And so, the Ashford curse lived on not as superstition, but as a story that covered up a crime. The Ashford family mystery is still remembered in fragments of folklore, the kind told to frightened children on stormy nights. Yet the graves remain, their inscriptions bearing the chilling time of 9:21 p.m. For some, the legend is proof of a curse. For others, it is a historical oddity. But for those who look closely, the pattern reveals not supernatural punishment, but human hatred. The Ashfords were not cursed. They were victims of systemic racism in its most intimate form. The erasure of a family, child by child, hour by hour, until their name was forgotten. Their story is not unique. Across America's history, countless black families, whether wealthy, mixed, or simply ambitious, were targeted by neighbors, by laws, by violence designed to strip them of dignity and inheritance. The Ashford tragedy is a reminder that racism often wears a mask, sometimes a religion, sometimes a superstition, always a silence. The true horror of the Ashford's legacy is not the deaths themselves, but the way society allowed them to be explained away as fate instead of acknowledged as injustice. Their memory forces us to ask, how many other families were written out of history, their suffering buried beneath convenient myths? The Ashfords may be gone, but their story demands to be told, not as a tale of curses, but as a testament to resilience, a call to confront the hidden violence in our past. What other truths lie buried beneath the myths we accept? And how many families, like the Ashfords, still wait for their voices to be heard?